I am going to model for you how to do the standard algorithm and area model in multi-digit multiplication. We're going to start with our first problem, which is simply 12 times 8. Using the standard algorithm, you are going to multiply your ones digits first. So 8 times 2 is going to be 16. We only have room for one digit down here, so we must regroup our tens digit up to the other side. When we get to it, we're simply going to add it. The second multiplication we're going to do is multiplying our ones times our tens digit. 8 times 1 is 8. And we're going to add our regroup for one more for 9. Therefore, 12 times 8 is 96. To do this using the area model, we're going to draw a rectangle. We're going to look at our numbers that are going to go to the area model. I see that I have two digits for my top number, so I'm going to split my box into two. I have two ones, which is going to go here, and I have 1 10, which will go over the top here. Using our bottom digit, we're going to take and we're going to put it on the side. Therefore, we can multiply 8 times 10, and we're going to put our answer inside of the box. Secondly, we're going to multiply 8 times 2, and again, we're going to put our answer inside of the box. Once we have our two numbers inside of the box, we are going to add them together. 80 plus 16 equals 96. If we look at the same operation, only we increase our digits. So if we take a number like 12 times 12, we're going to do the same thing to start off with. We are going to multiply our ones digit on the bottom times the ones digit on top. So 2 times 2 is 4. Then we're going to multiply our ones digit times our tens digit on top. So 2 times 1 is 2. Second thing we're going to do is we're going to come down and we're going to start to multiply by our tens digit. So we can't put anything inside of the ones place. So I'm going to put a 0 in here to simply be a placeholder. Then I'm going to multiply the 1 in the tens digit times the 2 in the ones digit on top. So 1 times 2 is 2. Then I'm going to multiply my tens digit on the bottom by my tens digit on the top. 1 times 1 is 1. Then we're going to add these numbers together. So 4 plus 0 is 4. 2 plus 2 is 4. And nothing plus 1 is 1. So 12 times 12 equals 144. Now, using this in the area model, again, we are going to draw our box. And we're going to use the amount of digits that we have to figure out how to divide our box up. In this case, we have 12, which is 2 digits. So I'm going to split my box in half across the top. My number on the side is also 2 digits. So I know that I need to split my box in half across from side to side. So when we do this, you can see that we have 4 squares that we're going to be filling in. Okay, now just like up here, where I took and I split my tens and my ones apart to 10 and 2, we're going to do the same thing down here. I have 2 ones that's going to go here. I have 1 10, which is going to go here. Now we look at our bottom number. We have 2 ones, so I'm going to put that down on the bottom. And again, I have 1 10 that's going to go here. This way we can multiply smaller numbers and we can fill in our grid, and just like before, we're going to add them together in the end. So first, I'm going to multiply 10 times 10, which is going to give me 100. Now, I'm going to multiply 10 times the 2 up here for 20. Now, when you come down here, you're going to multiply this 2 times this 10 to fill in this bottom box. So we're going to know to put a 20 here, and then I'm going to multiply this 2 times this 2, so that I can fill in my final square on my grid. Now, when I add these numbers together, it's very, very important that I keep them lined up and straight, and I'm always going to start with my largest number on top. So 100 is the largest number I have inside of my 4 square. My second largest number is going to be 20, and in this case, I have 2 of them. So I'm going to make sure I write them both down, and then I have a 4 to go with it. Now I'm going to add all 4 of these numbers up, and as you can see, I have them lined up as neatly as I possibly can into place values. So I have, in my ones column, I have 3 zeros and a 4. When I add them together, it comes out to be 4. In my tens column, I have 2 2s. When I add them together, it comes out to be a 4 as well. And in my hundreds column, I only have a 1. I don't have anything else to add to it. As you can see, 12 times 12 is 144, whether you use the standard algorithm or the area model. This method applies to any multiplication problem that we should choose to do. I can take a number like 123 times 56. This is not a problem that I can do in my head, but using these two methods, we can find a way to solve these fairly easily. Now, just like before, it doesn't matter how many digits are on top, we're always going to start by multiplying our ones digit on the bottom. In this case, 6 times 3 is 18. I only have room for one number again, so I put my ones digit down here, and my tens digit gets regrouped up to the top. Then I'm going to multiply my ones digit times my 10, so 6 times 2, which is 12. I'm going to add my leftovers, which will make 13. Again, I have room for only one number, so I have to put my regrouping up over the top. Then I'm going to multiply 6 times my hundreds digit, so 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 more is 7. So as of right now, just by multiplying the ones, I already have 738. Now I have a whole nother number down here that I have to mess with. I have my tens digit on the bottom. So since I'm multiplying by 10, I'm going to put a 0 in my 1 to hold the place value. Then I'm going to multiply 5 times 3 for 15. This is going to start in the tens column down here. Again, I have room for one number, and let's just cross these out so we don't get them mixed up. But I have to put my regrouping up over the top. Then I'm going to multiply 5 times 2 for 10. I'm going to add my regrouping, which is going to give me 11, and I have to put my regroup up top. Then I'm going to multiply 5 times my hundreds place, so 5 times 1 plus 1 more is going to be 6. Then I'm going to add these numbers together. So 8 plus 0 is 8, 3 plus 5 is 8, 7 plus 1 is 8, and 6 plus nothing is 6. Now, using the area model, we can break this apart just the same way we did with the other two problems, and we're going to look at our digits to figure out how we're going to break these apart. In this case, I'm always going to use my top number across the top of my area model. So I have 3 digits in this number. So therefore, I'm going to split my box into thirds. 1, 2, 3. On the side, I'm going to use my bottom number. Again, I have 2 digits, so I'm going to split my box into 2. So now you see that we're multiplying a 3-digit number times a 2-digit number, and we're going to have 6 boxes that we're going to fill in. So how do we get our numbers to around the box? I have 3 ones that I'm going to put right here. Then I have 2 tens. Well, 2 times 10 is 20, so we're going to put it up here. I have 1 100. Well, 1 times 100 is 100. Okay, that 100 plus 20 plus 3, thinking expanded form, gives me 123. On the side, I have 6 ones, and I have 5 tens. So 5 times 10 is 50. Again, 50 plus 6 is 56. This is where our numbers come from. Then we're going to simply multiply the numbers around the box to fill in the grid. So for the first one, I have 50 times 100. Well, 5 times 1 is 5, and then I'm simply going to count the amount of zeros I have and plug them in, so that we can say that 50 times 100 is going to equal 5,000. Then we're going to move to our tens place. So I have 50 times 20. Well, 5 times 2 is going to be 10. And then I have 2 more zeros that I have to put on there. So what we can say is that 50 times 20 equals 1,000. Then we're going to do the same thing to the last box. I have 50 times 3. Well, 5 times 3 is 15. I have 1 0 over here. I don't have any others, so I'm going to put it in there. Well, 50 times 3 is going to equal 150. On the bottom, we're going to do the exact same process. I have 6 times 100. So 6 times 1 is 6. I have 2 zeros that I'm going to plug in there. Then in the middle box, I'm going to take this 6 times this 20. Well, 6 times 2 is 12. And I'm going to put my 0 in. In the last box, I have 6 times 3, which is 18. Now, I have all of my numbers in my grid. I'm going to add them up. And once again, we're going to make sure, because it's very, very important, that we're neat. And I'm going to start with my largest number, which is 5,000. My second largest number is going to be 1,000. And I'm going to make sure that these all stay in line. My next largest number is going to be 600. Then I'm going to have 150, 120, and finally 18. Now, as you can see, these are all lined up as neatly as I can possibly make them. And if it helps, you can even draw little lines running through there so that you can identify what goes to what place value. So in our ones column, I have a whole lot of zeros and just an 8. Well, all those zeros plus 8 is 8. In the tens column, I have 3 zeros, which is nothing. I have 5 plus 2 is 7, plus 1 more is 8. In the hundreds column, I have 6 plus 1, which is 7, plus 1 more, which is also 8. And in my thousands column, I have 5 plus 1, which is 6. So I have 6,888, which also matches what I got in the standard algorithm. Now, how do we check this? How do we make sure that our math is correct? I have done this 2 ways and came out with the same number. But is there a way that we can make sure that this comes out correctly? And there is. There's actually 2 ways. First of all, we can take our 6,888 and we can divide it by either one of these 2 numbers. And we're hopefully going to come out with the other one. In this case, I'm going to do 56 because it's a little bit smaller number. So using our division practices, I need to find out where I can start dividing in. And I'm going to start looking at the first digit closest to my divisor. Can I divide 6 by 56 and come out with a number? The answer is no, I cannot, because 6 is smaller than 56. However, if I look at my first 2 places, can I divide 68 by 56 and come out with something? And the answer is yes, because 68 is larger than 56. Well, I realize that these are fairly close together, and I'm not going to be able to do it more than one time. So I'm going to put a 1 on top of the 8 because that's the last number I'm using. And I'm going to take 1 times 6, which is 6, and 1 times 5, which is 5, and then I'm going to subtract it out. So 8 minus 6 is 2, and 6 minus 5 is 1. So I have 12 left over. 12 is smaller than 56, so I need to bring down my next digit to make it bigger. I have an 8 to bring down. When I do that, my number goes from 12 to becoming 128. So in this case, I'm going to have to use some estimation skills to figure out how many times I can get 56 out of 128. Estimating this is fairly simple because I'm going to look at 56 and I'm going to realize that it's very close to 60. Well, if I think about 60 twice, 60 times 2, or 60 plus 60, I know that it's 120. So that's going to tell me that I'm very close because I'd only have 8 left over at that point. So I'm going to put a 2 up here above this second 8, and I'm going to say 2 times 6 is 12. Okay, again, I only have room for one number, just like up here with the multiplication. So I'm going to put my tens digit up above the 5. Then I'm going to multiply 2 times 5 for 10, and I'm going to add this 1 in. So I'm going to realize that 56 times 2 is 112. Then I'm going to subtract again. 8 minus 2 is 6, 2 minus 1 is 1, and 1 minus 1 is nothing. So now I'm back down to where I only have 16 left over. So I'm going to have to bring down my next 8. so that I can make this number bigger than my divisor. So looking at this and estimating, 56 is very close to 60. It's also not too far away from 50 because it's easier to estimate at larger numbers. Well, I know that 50 3 times is going to be 150, and that's only going to leave me 18. So I know that this is going to be close enough for me to be able to try to multiply it. Some of this has to be done by guess and check, but with numbers like these, you can be fairly certain that you're using the right ones. When I do this, I'm going to take my 3 times my 6 for 18. So I'm going to put my 8 down here. Let's cross that out so we don't get it mixed up, and I'm going to regroup up above. Then I'm going to take my 3 times my 5 for 15, and I'm going to add that one there, which is going to be 16. In this case, we came out with the exact same number. So when we subtract them, 8 minus 8 is 0, 6 minus 6 is 0, and 1 minus 1 is 0. I don't have any remainders or anything, but what I do have for my quotient is 123, which if you look back up above, is the same number we started with. So I know that my answer of 6,888 when I multiplied is going to be correct, because when I divided 56 from it, I came out with 123. Now this is using the standard algorithm for division. We have one more way that we can do this, and what we're going to do is we're going to write 6,888. We're going to put our little house on there, and I'm going to put 56 outside. It's going to start out looking just like what we did, except this time we're going to do a little bit of extra math to start off with so we can do less on the other side. So keeping in mind that we're talking about 56, we're going to write a couple of multiplication problems out to the side. So if I put 56 times 1, I'm going to have 56, right? Well, if I do 56 times 2, well, if we look over here in the middle where we did this, 2 times 56 was 112. So I already have done this, therefore I know that 112 is there. The other thing we're going to look at is times 10. And I'm going to leave a little gap here just in case I decide that I want to put something in the middle. Oops, not 5. We just said 10. So 56 times 10 is going to be 56 times 1 with an extra 0 for 560. Now in this case, we're looking at a number with 4 digits. So I'm going to bring this out, and I'm going to do one more down here, which is 56 times 100, which is going to be 5600. Okay, now in the middle, I could do 56 times 5 just to have an extra number to work with. In this case, 5 times 6 is 30. I'm going to carry my 3 over. 5 times 5 is 25 plus 3 for 28. So 56 times 5 is 280. Now in this method, all we're going to do is we're going to base this all on subtraction. So I've done a lot of the work right over here. Now we're going to use this work to help make this number smaller. So in this case, I want to bring this number right here down as fast as possible. By doing that, I'm going to take the largest number that I can use, and we're going to subtract it down. In this case, I said times 100 is 5600. So I'm going to write 5600 underneath and get ready to subtract it. Now out off to the side, I'm going to write 100 right here because that is what I multiplied by to get this number. Okay, so in this case, 8 minus 0 is 8. 8 minus 0 is 8. 8 minus 6 is 2. And 6 minus 5 is 1. So just by doing that one little subtraction, we brought our number from 6,888 all the way down to 1,288. Now, looking over here at our previous calculations, we realized that 56 times 10 is 560. So let's give that a shot and see what happens. So I'm going to write 560. We're going to subtract it. I'm going to make sure my 10 is over here. And then we're going to bring this number down and see what happens. 8 minus 0 is 8. 8 minus 6 is 2. And in this case, I don't have anything else down here. So I'm going to subtract 5 from the whole 12 here. And I'm going to come out with 728 still left over. Now by doing this, I brought my number down even farther, but I can still get 560 more out of it. So I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to write my 10 here. 8 minus 0 is 8. 2 minus 6, that's going to be a problem. So we're going to do a little regrouping. So now I'm going to make this 12, and I'm going to borrow from the 7 in the hundreds place. 12 minus 6 is 6. and 6 minus 5 is 1. Now, in this case, we realize that I can no longer take 5,600 out of this number because it's too big. I can no longer take 560 out of this number because it is also too big. 280 is larger than 168, so these guys are all done. We're finished with them. Now, by doing this, what I realize is that I have 112 right here when I multiplied by 2. Well, that's going to be smaller than 168, and it's going to be fairly close to getting us down to where we need to be. So 8 minus 2 is 6, 6 minus 1 is 5, 1 minus 1 is 0. That leaves us with 56 left over, which also happens to be the same thing as 56 times 1. So I'm going to write a 56 here, we're going to subtract it, and I'm going to put a 1 off to the side. 6 minus 6 is 0, 5 minus 5 is 0. And then all I have to do is add up what I multiplied by over here on the side. In this case, I have 100 plus 10, which is 110, plus 10 more, which is 120, plus 2, which is 122, plus 1 more, which is 123. If you look, we ended up with the exact same number that we started with in the very beginning.